Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about the matchup between Dimir Midrange and Golgari Midrange. We're going to analyze this matchup in as many ways as I can think of, and really this is a clash of the titans of midrange in Standard. If you're looking to play fair Magic, you basically get to pick between Golgari and Dimir. And each of them have had their chance at the top of the Standard metagame, but which one is better? Let's talk about these strengths and weaknesses so that no matter what side of this matchup that you're on, you can master it. So what the Golgari deck is effectively attempting to do is to one-for-one their opponents while playing creatures that do a little bit more and like maybe draw more cards like Preacher of the Schism and Glissa, punish their opponent for drawing cards and gaining life like with Shieldred, draw cards and then also be a threat like Masa Dread Knight, while they make sure that they answer all of their opponent's threats. Dimir Midrange is doing something a little bit similar, where they're attempting to one-for-one, but the way that they capitalize on their creatures is by playing Enduring Curiosity and then connecting with their extremely evasive flying creatures so that they can draw a bunch of extra cards, and then using Kaido Bane of Nightmares to return things to their hand so they can draw more cards and tap things down with Kaido, and then replay those cards that they've returned to their hand to get the enter the battlefield effect again. And so each of these have a bit of an advantage. Golgari Midrange's threats, each of them is very, very scary and sometimes difficult to answer. So they are looking to dominate the battlefield while they one-for-one. Where Dimir Midrange, once they get the engine going, they can just overwhelm their Golgari opponents with card advantage. As far as the early game in this matchup, the Golgari deck is focusing on playing their Llanowar elves and getting their mana underneath them, drawing cards, forming their hand, and maybe applying one or two very strong threats, where the Dimir deck is attempting to play as many creatures as possible that are cheap and evasive so that they can play their Enduring Curiosity or Preacher of the Schism or whatever and start burying the Golgari deck in card advantage. And so the Golgari deck really has to one-for-one early in the game, looking to trade cards early and often with the Dimir deck so that they aren't surprised by a Enduring Curiosity to draw 2 or 3. Because the Golgari deck has a really hard time catching up from that. Where the Dimir deck is attempting to establish this board presence, spend less mana on their creatures than their Golgari opponent is on their removal spells. Now, as far as the mid game goes, the Dimir deck really needs to start drawing cards and getting that card advantage either from Kaido or from Enduring Curiosity, where the Golgari deck needs to have answered their opponent's creatures and start applying threats of their own and establish their own board presence. And then the late game of these two decks, either the Dimir deck is burying the Golgari Midrange deck in card advantage, or the Golgari Midrange deck has a 2 or 3 of their superior creatures on the battlefield that the Dimir deck now needs to answer. And that's really how this matchup plays out. Now, whether you're on either side of this matchup, it's important to know how to sideboard. And so this is how each deck sideboards against the other deck. I'm going to rip this from the sideboard guides that I made for these decks. You should definitely check those out in its entirety, but here you go. Golgari Midrange. Against Golgari, again, we're a fan of Tishana's Tidebinder, being able to hit Shieldred or Preacher or Glissa, or there's so many things. I'm also a fan of doing a little bit of that transformative thing, bringing in Preachers and Shieldred to be able to keep up with their midrange plan. Cut down is really bad. It deals with Dread Knight. It can hit Llanowar elves, which is kind of nice, but Feyboom Trick kind of doesn't matter because they don't have many flyers anyway. And then we're going to shave on Floodpit's Drowner because we really just want to outcard them with Enduring Curiosity and like hit them in the air and nickel and dime them. And these creatures are kind of just better in keeping up with the mid-range plan than Floodpit's Drowner. So I sideboard against Golgari Mid. Dimir Midrange. Against Dimir Midrange, you're bringing in Cut Down. We are bringing in The End. We're bringing in Harvester of Misery. We're going to be bringing out Terror Sunder. Gist Command can be good, but I don't think it's good that often. I like cutting Glissa as well because, frankly, they aren't looking to block and are just going to remove it. And Glissa's not going to be blocking flyers anyway. I just like cutting Glissa. This is how I sideboard against Dimir Midrange. So really, in this matchup, I honestly would give the overall advantage to Dimir Midrange, just because I want to be the deck that is asking the questions, not the deck that's providing the answers. And in the early game, the Dimir deck is asking the questions, and if the Golgari deck doesn't have the answers for those early creatures that the Dimir deck provides, then the Dimir deck will run away with the game every time. And that happens, frankly, most of the time, because Golgari has to clean up the board and then apply their creatures, make sure their creatures don't die, and then get to the late game, where the Dimir deck is just like jam their creatures on the battlefield, play a Enduring Curiosity, draw a ton of cards, and then they're sitting pretty. And so the matchup's much, much harder for Golgari Midrange, like, as a whole. But this video isn't enough. It's important that you practice, analyze your own gameplay, and continue to refine your own understanding, because this video is not comprehensive. It is just a look at understanding this matchup. So you should share your thoughts and experiences in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.